Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. שלום עליכם, סלאם עליכום. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is, to be together on this day. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שברחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב
You may be seated.
Shir lamalot esainai el heharim mehayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim va'aretz Ayiten lamot raglecha Al yanum shomrecha Hine lo yanum velo ishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomrecha Adonai Tzilcha Al yad yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh Velo yakeka Ve'yareach malayla Adonai yishmorcha mikora Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha uvoecha Me'ata ve'ad olam Me'ata ve'ad olam.
The 121st Psalm. We lift our eyes to the mountains, and we wonder, where will our help come from? We trust that our help will come from Adonai, our God, maker of heaven and earth. God, we pray at this moment, do not let our foot slip. Protect us. God, we trust you as the protector of Israel to never slumber nor sleep. God, be our guardian. Be our protection this day. Be next to us so that neither the sun nor the moon nor anything shall bring harm to us. And God, especially guard our souls. Guard the beloved soul of Slava Leykind. It's going out and it's coming in now and forever. Amen. Amen. Friends, welcome. I'm Rabbi Michael Friedman, and I'm pleased to be joined here by Cantor Julia Cadrain. We wish that we had words that could explain or justify or somehow make sense of why we are gathered here today. There are no words that we can offer that will make this all right. But I want to offer a story. Following the death of his young son, Rabbi Harold Kushner preached a sermon in which he retold a story by Shel Silverstein entitled The Missing Piece. Silverstein tells a story of a circle that found itself missing a piece. It knew it was not like any other circle. It could not roll on as other circles did, straight and fast and smooth. No, this circle that was missing a piece hobbled and bumped and went slowly through the world. And everywhere it went, it looked for its missing piece. Today, all of us, but especially Slava's beloved family, are missing a piece. Slava was his family's rock. Steady, brilliant, calm, wise, and always loving. He was driven and successful and protective. Slava achieved the life that he had always dreamed of. And that makes his loss, his passing, all the more sudden and horrifying and painful. So yes, today we are all circles missing a piece that can never be fully replaced. This space, Temple Israel, was and is Slava's and his family's Jewish home. So it's fitting that we gather here to honor him and to share stories, to speak of his abounding love, and although we feel so ill-prepared to do it, to say farewell. The 23rd Psalm.
Adonai Roi Lo Echsar.
God is my shepherd, I shall lack for nothing. God helps me lie down in green pastures, leads us beside still waters, and restores our souls. God, you lead us in the right paths for the sake of your name, and even when we walk in the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for you, God, are with us. Your rod and your staff, they comfort us. You have set a table before us in the presence of our enemies. You have anointed our heads with oil, and our cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the house of God forever. Amen. Yes, this 23rd Psalm, made iconic by centuries, generations of its repetition by us and our people, speaks of finding ourselves in the valley of shadows, the valley of deep darkness. It provides such a contrast for us today, because we know that Slava died trying to summit the equivalent of Everest. It's both literal and a metaphor. Amy said, he died at the top of the mountain. Yes, Slava spent his life climbing and climbing, from a beginning that only his parents and his brothers can truly understand. And like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said on the eve of his own death, Slava knew he had reached the mountaintop. His friend Scott Lutz reported a recent conversation with Slava saying, he was at his very best, glowing about his family, his life here in Westport. He was in the very best of shape and at the pinnacle of his professional success, truly invigorated by his work and his life. Slava may have died metaphorically at the mountaintop, but in contrast, we now find ourselves, in the words of the psalm, in the valley of deepest darkness. What a distance from one to the other. And we will all need one another to find our way back. Our tradition teaches that for every single thing there is a season. L'chol zman ve'et l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. Et laledet vet lamut, et latat vet la'akor natua, et lifrotz vet livnot, et livkot vet lischok, et spod vet rekod. For every single thing there's a season, there's a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. And so speak we shall of our beloved Slava, who was husband of Amy, father of Charlotte, Eloise, and Jonah, son of Art and Nellie, brother of Jean and Max, son-in-law of Bonnie and Alex, brother-in-law of Nina and Alan and Rachel, uncle of Dea, Kobe, Jackson, Esme, and Blake. Although we are so ill-prepared to say farewell, his family, of course, most of all, we will nonetheless honor him, share memories and stories, and thus commit to keeping his memory alive. I invite Charlotte to the bema.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it, and I know they're wrong. Wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing, and what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee da da do, la la da 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 dee da do.
So proud of you. That was beautiful.
We're pleased to invite to the bema Slava's childhood friend, Aaron Wasserman.
I'm actually really happy to follow that because what a joy. Charlotte, that was just beautiful. I have so many thoughts. First of all, my name is Aaron, and I grew up with Slava. We knew each other at Hebrew school when we were little kids. And then I moved to Israel, and then I came back to Blake, our high school, for 2 years. So really, our relationship was condensed into 2 years. And what I would say is that my wife told me to keep this brief, so I'm going to do my best. It was like our first love. Slava was like my first love. You don't get to choose your family. I got to choose him as a brother. And well, I want to say, I want to tell the kids a few things about their dad, because they are the future. I mean, you saw it right here. And the first thing I can say in words, but Charlotte did one better, which is, she lived it, which is, your dad lived in the joy of every moment. He recognized the joy in every moment, even in something like this. And that's what Charlotte just did. When I was in high school, I used to go over to Slava's house all the time. And he had this dog named Caesar. And Caesar was the most terrifying little dog. He would bark at me, he would bite me. I mean, I went over his house like 1,000 times, and nothing prevented this dog. It was awful. And Slava's mom would be all apologetic, and I'm so sorry, Aaron, and Caesar, stop, would you please stop? And Slava was off in the corner laughing every single time. And there were so many moments like that where Slava was just in his own moment of joy. And if you were lucky, like I was, he would show you a glimpse of it. The second thing I want to tell you, kids, about your dad is that he was always more interested in the giving than in the taking. So I said I came back from Israel. I offered no social currency to Slava. Everyone liked Slava. He was athletic, he was on the basketball team, he was a good-looking guy. He had all kinds of friends. No one ever had an argument with Slava, and no one ever disagreed with him. And he kind of just whisked me along and said, like, oh, we're like, Aaron, I remember you from New York. Yeah, come on, we're going to wherever we're going. It's funny, if you spend any time in Minnesota, you know weather like this feels a lot like Minnesota in the summer. And 25 years ago today, we would have gone on a run around Lake of the Isles, and we would have felt that heat. And he would have just picked me up in his Subaru and just hopped in and put the windows down, and off we went. He didn't need to do that. He could have spent his time in so many other ways, but he chose to really open up to someone new. And actually, I live in Los Angeles, and our family lost our home in the fire earlier this year. And Amy and Slava gave us a bunch of money, and then they said, "How can we help?" So like they did the thing, they did the giving, and then they said, "How can we help?" And Slava would check up on me and send me texts and call, and he was always far more interested and satisfied in the giving than in the taking. And the third thing I want the kids to know about their dad is that he he knew who he was, and he was proud of who he was. He had this unshakable sense of self. On Friday night, my family would have Shabbat dinner, and instead of wanting to go out with friends and going here or going there, Slava would want to come over and have a cognac and a cigar with my dad. Like that was his fun. We played chess. Like, I don't know. He just, his sense of self was something that I admired and then I inherited from my own self. Like if Slava can be so proud of who he is, I should also be proud of who I am. So I'll end by saying my time with Slava was a gift. It really was. And I believe that while his body may be resting, but his soul is very much alive. It always will be alive. His soul will always be with us. So Charlotte, when I dance with you at your wedding, your dad's soul will be with us. Eloise, when you graduate college, your dad's soul will be with us. Jonah, when you become a bar mitzvah, your dad's soul will be with us. I will be with you. And I want you to know that I'm forever your dad's best friend in LA, and I'm always going to be with your family. I'm always going to be here for your family. And we'll do this together. I love you guys.
I'm pleased to invite Robbie Salter to the bima.
Bit of a surreal morning. My name is Robbie Salter, and I'm one of Slava's closest friends. First, let me say I've never given a eulogy before, and frankly, this is not one I ever thought I'd have to give. And yet here we are. In a room full of people, colleagues, classmates, friends, neighbors, and family. A room that stands as its own tribute to the kind of person Slava was. Quietly extraordinary, unfailingly loyal. The kind of guy everyone respected, not because he demanded it, but because he lived in a way that earned it. Consistency, grace, and this calm that you could hang your hat on. And in thinking about this moment, the only comfort I can offer, and the central theme I come back to is this: appreciation for the quality, not the quantity of time we shared with Slava. Because when someone like Slava leaves us far too early, and let's be clear, this is unfair, you begin to understand that relationships aren't measured in years, but in depth. I met Slava 22 years ago at the University of Michigan Business School, working on the school newspaper, and his impression on me was immediate. As the arts and entertainment editor, I was finding myself cobbling together half-coherent prose about new Michael Bublé albums. And he, the managing editor, was running the paper like he was gunning for a Pulitzer, carrying an IBM ThinkPad everywhere like it contained the nuclear codes. He looked and acted more like tenured faculty than a sophomore. But what drew me in wasn't just that Slava was a star I wanted to attach myself to, which he was. It was that underneath his stoic, understated, even-keeled brilliance was a hilarious, joyful human. Someone who could make you cackle with just a wink. One that said, "Sexy, right?" when the automatic seatbelts in his mid-1990s Subaru clicked into place. And like a new Bublé album, I wanted to share Slava with others immediately. I take great pride in saying I introduced Slava to Amy. She was my best female friend, and he was my best male friend. On paper, they were total opposites. He, a quiet Russian immigrant from Minnesota, She, a strong-willed blonde from Long Island. But I knew they were the same in all the ways that mattered most. Two inherently good, socially fluid introverts who would always choose sweatpants and chapatis over a night at Scorekeepers. To this day, their union is one of my proudest accomplishments. Amy, there's no sufficient comfort I can offer you right now. But you, Charlotte, Eloise, and Jonah were his world, his greatest source of pride, strength, and joy. He revered you, and there's no other word. I heard it constantly in the way he talked about each of you, and I see so much of him in you. The leader on stage, Charlotte. The quick wit, Eloise. And that stubborn, dark-eyed charm of you, Jonah. Your father, your husband, was perfect. He was also my greatest champion. There for me in ways big and small, always when it mattered most. From signing the ketubah at my wedding, sending strong arm emojis days before my first triathlon, or pushing me to start my company. Slava was there, with quiet wisdom, with unwavering support. Even when life got busiest, Slava showed up in just the way I needed him to. Sure, a drink before a long commute, or a quick coffee around the office were common. But I'll miss our regular early morning business meetings at the Broadway diner the most. Both of us annoyingly health conscious, we'd catch up over simple egg whites, no toast, no potatoes, and exchange updates on what our kids were doing, talk shop, and make plans for our next race together. And inevitably, despite our near obsession with our respective health goals, and the fact that it was 8 in the morning, Slava would indulge me with a milkshake, if only so he could look at me with his big smiling eyes and remind me that, despite my great efforts to stay fit, I was and always would be a fat, insert expletive here, at heart. I'm gonna miss these tongue-in-cheek fat shamings for the now simple reminder to enjoy the sweet stuff in life. I'm gonna miss his voice on the other end of the line, always starting with his signature, "Yo, buddy," before we got into the news of the day. I'm gonna miss biking beside him on those winding Westport streets, watching him trounce me up the steep hills, pushing me to work harder, smarter, just to get to where we were going. And I'm gonna miss standing next to him on the beach, waiting at the starting line of a triathlon in our wetsuits, ready to compete, not against each other, but absolutely together. My buddy, my dear friend, I will never stop wishing we had more time together. But I will spend the rest of my life eternally grateful for the quality of the time that we had. Every interaction, every chuckle, every hug, every proud and encouraging text, and every chocolate milkshake. I will always have your voice in my ear cheering me on, and I will forever be following in your footsteps, your wake, and your tread. I love you. Rest in peace, buddy.
We welcome Andrew Miller to the Bema. Thanks for everything you do.
When I thought about what to say here, what to say in front of all these people and how my words would be received, I thought, Slava will know. Slava will help me. And when I was having this thought, I was looking out my window at an old sycamore, and there was a pileated woodpecker, a male, the bright red comb on his head, looking at me and laughing at me like they do. And then he flew away and I was alone. When we give voice to a thought, it exists. My friend is gone. I'm not an easy person. I don't have many friends. My friend is gone, and I have to make peace with that. What kind of man was Slava? He was the kind of man that understood and respected the chaos, studied it, and took joy where he found it. He was the kind of man who allowed himself to laugh with his wife, with his beautiful children. I'm so proud of you guys. Laugh with his friends, and to infect us all with his smile. He was the kind of man that took the time to buy gummy bears while walking too slowly on his way to the train, and make up cartoon pictures of me in a chef's hat in a sauna. He was also the kind of man who could help a friend search for answers to his existential angst over a game of cards and a nice glass of wine. He was my friend, and he's gone. I began reading Whitman seriously around the time I met Slava. These verses give me comfort. I hope they'll do the same for you. Now while I sat in the day and looked forth, in the close of the day, with its light in the fields of spring, and the farmers preparing their crops, in the large unconscious scenery of my land with its lakes and forest, in the heavenly aerial beauty after the perturbed winds and the storms, under the arching heavens of the afternoon swift passing and the voices of children and women, the many moving sea tides, and I saw the ships how they sailed, and the summer approaching with richness and the fields all busy with labor, and the infinite separate houses, how they all went on, each with its meals and minutiae of daily usages, and the streets, how their throbbings throbbed and the cities pent. Lo, then and there, falling upon them all and among them all, enveloping me with the rest, appeared the cloud, appeared the long black trail, and I knew death, its thought and the sacred knowledge of death. Then with the knowledge of death as walking one side of me, and the thought of death close walking the other side of me, and I in the middle as with companions, as holding the hands of companions, I fled forth to the hiding, receiving night that talks not, down to the shores of the water, the path by the swamp in the dimness, the solemn, shadowy cedars and ghostly pines so still. And the singer so shy to the rest received me. The gray-brown bird I know received us comrades three, and he sang the carol of death in a verse for him I love.
We welcome Ron Fuchs to the Bima.
Slava, you always knew when I was getting ready to step up to the line and serve a joke. You knew exactly where the joke was going, and you were always ready for it. First, you would tilt your head slightly to the side. Your big eyes would squint. Your forehead would scrunch. and you'd give me a look, playful, but yet a cautionary glance not to go too far. I can only imagine the facial expressions you'd be making right now as Amy would grasp onto your knee, say, "Slava, oh my God, he better not." I can only imagine the look of simultaneous terror, bemusement, and anticipation you'd be throwing at me right now as I walked up here. The truth is that with you, Slava, I always felt like I could do no wrong. The truth is that with Slava, I think we all felt that we could do no wrong. Your patience, your open-mindedness, your curiosity, your willingness to assume that people generally had good intentions, and your habit of offering someone else's differing viewpoint made you a calming force at home, at work, and amongst your friends. Never, ever an unkind word. Sarcastic only when you're intending on bringing levity to the situation. And so warm, so gentle. Slava, from the moment Shira and I received the check that brandished your legal name, and we learned that you were officially Rostislav, I've been compiling a file with pictures, lots and lots and lots of pictures. Said photos were meant to be pulled out for some future undetermined celebration. As Shira and Sasha and I prepared for this day, we've been going through so many photos. New Year's after New Year's after New Year's, and Rosh Hashanah after Rosh Hashanah, and so many birthdays. Photos of you in elaborate costumes on Halloween, just to make the kids, just to make Amy happy. Photos with my children and your huge arm spans. Photos on the beach and photos in the snow. So many smiles. So many silly times. Early during COVID, after you guys had recently moved out to Westport, Amy sent you to the city to do some art shopping in Chelsea. You invited me to join in what turned out to be a fabulous afternoon art and furniture shopping, wearing N95 masks and trying to locate any store that could possibly get some furniture into your new house within less than 15 months. Such problems. As we rested on a white sofa and you were educating me on the supply chain ramifications of COVID on China and why we could not get you white sofas in time, the saleswoman told us that we made such a cute couple. We snapped a selfie, which I expeditiously made sure to save into that special Slava album. You were a shoulder in rough times. Your kindness allowed me to be vulnerable with you when I needed to keep up a strong facade for everyone else around me. Anybody can be there for you when you're weak and when you're broken. But a true friend is the one that's there for you when you're winning and when you're celebrating, that truly loves and enjoys your success. My wins always felt like they were your wins. But that's just your nature. Sorry. You always made sure to give everyone around you the attention and the warmth that they desired and that they needed from you. I recall that either last summer or the summer before, when tragedy hit Sagawaya, one of your summer interns tragically and unexpectedly passed, how rocked to the core you were, and how you genuinely worried about this young man's family. It was the first time I'd really seen you thrown off balance. Slava, you were the kindest, gentlest guy, yet you were no pushover. That is, unless Sasha, my daughter, had you cornered at the toy post in Westport. I doubt there was a jelly cat on that shelf that Sasha couldn't have gotten you to bankroll. Slava, in the few years that you've been here in Westport, you and Amy and Charlotte and Eloise and Jonah have managed to ingrain yourselves in the hearts of so many, as evidenced by the people in this room. Slava, some friends are there for you when things get bad. Some friends are there for you when you need to go out and get loose. Some for doing family activities with, some when you need advice, some to talk politics and share podcasts with. Some are there to make fun of you as you walk around with a Dyson in one hand and a leaf blower in the other. You were a friend for all seasons. You have left Shira, Sasha, Henry, and I with a huge void. We love you, and we will miss you.
We invite Fuad Sawaya and Jeff Kaur to the bima.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Fuad Sawaya, and this is my partner, Jeff Kaur. We have had the privilege of working alongside Slava for the past 20 years. First at Sawaya Partners, and more recently at Canaccord Genuity. On behalf of our entire firm and everyone who loved Slava, we want to honor his life today. I'll begin with a few words from both of us, and then Jeff will share some personal stories. We lost Slava too soon. Slava joined us from General Mills at just 23 years old. He was eager to learn and ready to make a difference. He was first a colleague who rose through the ranks to become a partner, a brother, a friend. Slava was one of the finest people we've ever known, not just in business, but in life. That's not a line, that's the truth. He had a brilliant mind, never the loudest voice in the room, always the clearest. When a deal stalled or a crisis hit, Slava was the one we wanted by our side. He never flinched. He would pause, breathe, lean in, and find a way. But what truly set him apart was how he showed up for people. Slava cared deeply about doing great work, yes, but even more about doing right by people. That was his compass. He led with integrity, always. Not the kind you put in pitch decks, but the kind that's felt. Built brick by brick when no one's watching. Clients felt it. Colleagues trusted it. Friends counted on it. A colleague once called him a steady hand who instilled confidence with his calm demeanor and unique ability to call balls and strikes. He shared his knowledge generously. He mentored so many people who've reached out in the past few days to say he changed the trajectory of their lives. He taught us how to think, how to act, how to lead without losing our humanity. In meetings or on Zoom calls, he was the quiet compass, letting every voice be heard while his brilliant mind connected the dots, then adding a few measured words that turned debate into direction. Another colleague wrote, "Give Slava 10 minutes with anyone, from CEOs to 8-year-olds, and they would all walk away thinking he was their new best friend." He lived our culture instinctively, embracing and strengthening it every day. Another colleague reflected, "I wish I'd collaborated with Slava more. He was the fountainhead of our culture." He loved his family fiercely. Amy, you were his anchor, his joy, his home. And to Charlotte, Eloise, and Jonah, he loved you with a fullness we all could see in the office, day in and day out. Slava did not chase recognition. He didn't posture. He wasn't interested in credit. He simply did the work with elegance, humility, and heart. And in doing so, he made the rest of us better. We miss him every day. But we're also deeply grateful to have walked alongside him, to have learned from him, to know that his legacy lives on, not in headlines or tombstones, but in the lives he touched, the teams he shaped, the principles he modeled. Our partnership with Slava lasted 20 years, and it doesn't end here. When hard decisions loom, we will be asking ourselves, what would Slava advise us to do? He left us while pursuing a summit, tackling an Everesting challenge at the young age of 43, reaching, as he always did, determined to stand at the peak. At this point, I'd like to invite Jeff to share a few stories that capture Slava's spirit even better than any resume ever could, so we can try to trade our tears for a smile and remember the Slava who could turn any deadline into a punchline. Jeff?
Thank you, Fuad. As Fuad articulated, Slava was an amazing partner. It was a pleasure to go into work and work with Slava. And I can tell from the other speakers here, I felt he was one of my closest friends. And my guess is he had many, many people who felt that he was one of their closest friends. When I think of Slava, I think of so many of his wonderful attributes. We called him Zen Master. He was extraordinary. He was diplomatic. He was considerate. He was empathetic. He was smart. He was a great athlete. He was collaborative. In short, he was just an all-around great guy. Slava was wise beyond his years. Fuad and I are both over 20 years older than Slava was, but often the three of us would sit down and we'd talk about, decisions with regard to our business. And a lot of times it was Slava giving me and Fuad advice like he was our wise, experienced elder. Slava, as you've heard, was an impressive but understated athlete. For several years, as a team-building exercise, our group participated in several Olympic triathlons. I can remember one of those like it was yesterday. I only did the bike portion. They can do these relays. Slava did all three components. And if you know, the swim is first, and then the bike, and then the run. So I did the bike. I started off before Slava just because of how they time these things. Slava did a mile swim in the sound. I'm like all fresh, I'm pedaling away, all out. And then I hear somebody coming up behind me very quietly, "Jeff, how you doing?" And it was Slava. He had just finished a mile swim and just pedaled right on by me. As Fuad mentioned, Slava didn't shout from the rooftops about his accomplishments. He just did the work and finished ahead of the pack. We all know Slava was funny, he was articulate, he was quick on his feet. I remember one holiday party a few years ago when Slava just stunned us with his ability to perform really a stand-up comedy act. Our holidays used to be epic. They were really, crazy. And everybody prepared for days on what they're gonna do. They're gonna sing, or they're gonna tell jokes, or whatever. So one time, it was like 5 o'clock before the party, and I said, "Hey, Slava, what are you gonna do tonight?" He looked at me and he said, "I haven't thought about it yet." Then when his time came, he methodically went around the room in his unassuming, calm way and was giving incredibly insightful and funny comments about each and every member of our 25-person team. His presentation was the highlight of the evening. He blew us away. You have all heard a lot about the fact that Slava was thinking of other people. Well, this attribute of his came out in many ways. Some of them were surprising. For example, it didn't go unnoticed around the office that in recent years he started cutting his hair really short. Fuad and I wondered, maybe he was doing that so we wouldn't feel so badly. Slava, of course you weren't perfect. Nobody is. But I'm here to say that, buddy, you came awfully close.
Having heard from Slava's closest friends and business partners, we're privileged now to be able to hear from his family members. I first invite Laura and Alan Eisenberg to the bima.
A couple of months after Charlotte was born, I stopped by Amy and Slava's apartment to see my new niece on my way to work. Finding the door unlocked, I entered to see Slava sitting in the living room, singing and giving a bottle to the baby. He put a finger to his lips to signal that Amy was still sleeping. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, I said, "Oh, I didn't know you usually did the morning feed. Isn't that tough with getting to work?" He said, "Nah, I got home an hour ago from an all-nighter on a deal. I figured I'd turn Amy's alarm off and let her sleep." I won't embarrass the men here by asking how many new dads would choose to stay up an extra hour after working an all-nighter rather than letting their wives take over. But that's really not the impressive part. What struck me then, and repeated itself again and again, was just how normal Slava felt that selfless decisions like these were. He is so rational, so undramatic and so generous that he often failed to grasp the extent of just how special he was. Fast forward 12 years to preparations for Charlotte's bat mitzvah, which was actually a b'nai mitzvah with our son Jackson. Jackson and Charlotte have a unique relationship with all the love of siblings, but none of the fighting. Yet, in the lead up to the service, they were at odds over whether friends should attend, and it was gnawing at both of them. This was their first conflict ever, and they were as upset to be upsetting each other as they were about the underlying issue. Alan favored letting the kids try to figure it out. Amy and I were bickering over text. Then Slava stepped in, using the same gentle, respectful, matter-of-fact style that he had used when he was explaining his decision to feed her after an all-nighter 12 years before. Slava voiced Charlotte's concern in a way that Jackson could understand. He recentered us all, and the tension dissipated. As Fuad said so aptly, Slava turned debate into direction. The b'nai mitzvah that followed saw Charlotte and Jackson at their absolute best as individuals and in their support for each other. Slava, like all of us, was beaming in pride. Today, he is wearing the suit that he wore that night.
Even in death, Slava's leadership and personality permeated our family. After Slava was hospitalized, Amy got the first call and was on the next plane to Idaho Falls. Amy and Laura's dad, Alex, a doctor, quickly followed. Art and Nellie flew in from Florida and Jean from Chicago, along with Jean's friend Leonard, who simply showed up when he heard Jean was suffering. Laura and I were getting off a boat in Italy when she got a call from Alex that caused her to literally crumble onto the hot concrete of the pier. Slava's condition was highly unstable in those first 2 days, and Amy made the decision to get the kids to Idaho as quickly as possible. With great care, Charlotte and Eloise were roused in the middle of the night at camp and told that their Mima, Bonnie, and Ron, who you all heard from, their dear family friend, were taking them and Jonah to see their dad, who was suddenly very sick. When they asked if he was going to be okay, Bonnie and Ron were coached not to say yes. By all accounts, the entire traveling party handled this journey with extraordinary poise and grace. And so it was that we converged upon the East Idaho Regional Medical Center and the nearby Hampton Inn, a ragged and grief-stricken group. We were tense and terrified, struggling to unpack the complex medical picture, and devastated as we began to understand its only possible outcome. Yet, despite that suffocating pressure and suffocating pain, what I remember from those days was the pure kindness and self-sacrifice that everyone brought. Amy frequently said, "I'm trying to listen for Slava's voice," which became our guiding principle. We each heard it in our own way, but the effect was the same. Every time we had the choice to add drama, we ended up reducing it. When someone wobbled, they were hugged and held. We literally fed each other after all-nighters, just like Slava did with Charlotte 12 years before. And we worked to understand different perspectives, as Slava had helped do with Jackson and Charlotte. I see now as individuals that none of us rose to this challenge. Instead, Slava lifted us up to meet it. He showed us how to navigate the unimaginable as only the strongest and best leaders can. Slava had another quality that animates many great leaders. He was playful, and you've all heard about this, but you're going to hear a little more. I had what is the greatest honor of my life, which was the honor of performing shmira for Slava, which is the honor of guarding his body after he passed away. It's a sacred ritual in our faith, believed to provide protection to the body as it releases the soul, and protection to the soul as it departs the body. It was the first time we were alone together since his accident. When pulling up the Psalms that are read during this vigil, including Psalm 23, which you all heard earlier, which in my haste I seem to have found on a website called Hebrew for Christians, my mind wandered through the hundreds of one-on-ones we had over our 2 decades as dear friends and brothers-in-law. At family events or when our kids were having one of their numerous cousins' days together, we always grabbed a few minutes alone to catch up. We would have a drink or take a walk, talk a bit of work or kids, and poke a little fun at everyone like Statler and Waldorf, the 2 old Muppets on the balcony. Unless we had ground to cover about a professional or personal decision, we found our way quickly into mischief. We had a tradition that I don't think anyone except Laura is aware of, that we would try to break each other at family gatherings with the most inappropriate texts that either of us could think of. It was our own version, for those of you who have seen it, of the Aristocrats. Slava usually succeeded in keeping it together when he would see his phone ring, or his phone ding, mustering only a sly smile. I usually failed, spitting water out of my nose and getting dirty looks from everyone around me. I scrolled through some of these exchanges in the past few days, wondering whether I could offer an example, and I can confidently report that there is not a single one I can share without being asked to leave the synagogue and very possibly excommunicated entirely. On a recent family trip, we played tennis doubles every day against the girls and quickly got in trouble for taking our trash talking too far. And when we sheepishly promised not to do it again, Laura and Amy were right to assign that promise the same level of credibility as when our kids tell us they'll never punch their sibling again if we just don't take away their iPad. Eventually, like 2 class clowns, we had to be separated for excessive bad behavior, forced to partner with our wives instead of each other. This did not end the chirping. Instead, Slava started screaming, "Let it rain," or "rain dance," every single time he hit the ball. For him, it was a screaming winner. I started copying him, screaming the same thing, and proceeded to hit the ball over and over into the bottom of the net. This being the case despite me having taken tennis lessons once a week for most of my life, and Slava playing tennis 3 times a year, at the most. The fact that our kids showed up and cracked up each time we did this only fueled the fire to the point that Laura and Amy eventually just gave up and went to the gym. When we weren't together, little bromantic or spicy messages were our language. "Miss you, pal. You winning as usual? You need anything?" When asked how a recent vacation was going, I sent him a photo of myself lying on a beach chair. He wrote back, "Nice. Now one without trunks, please." I returned from this daydream to the Shmira prayers in front of me, and to the now quiet machines and disconnected tubes that filled room 213 of the Idaho ICU, as far from his living room or a beach on the Caribbean as you could be. The person in front of me was wearing a hospital gown, not a beautiful suit. The twinkling eyes were closed, and the silence was profound. Waiting for one of the numerous waves of heaving tears that I expected to come again, I felt in its place a strong, strong rush of joy, bracing in its contrast to the misery that had cloaked us all. I believe that rush of joy marked the moment when Slava's soul left his body and began its journey to the heavens, dispensing healing and happiness as it traveled upward. I may be more New Age than Slava, but I also saw nature get in on this. Before Slava died, Laura and I had seen at most 3 or 4 rainbows in the 20 years we had been going to Wyoming. In the 36 hours since he passed away, we saw 8, including 5 on the drive home from our final visit with him. As Charlotte sang, that was our rainbow connection that we saw too many times to ignore.
When Slava took his last breath, there were two people in the air, Robbie and Aaron, on the way to see him, even though they knew they probably wouldn't get there in time. They are both on the list, and everyone keeps coming back to this, of the scores of people who think of Slava as their very best friend, and who are now in deep mourning. We are all finding ourselves continuing to reflexively reach for Slava in our thoughts and our plans. When Alan asked me over the weekend to invite Amy and Jonah to stay with us after the girls go back to camp, I instinctively asked, but what about Slav? Each time this happens, we are freshly crushed, embarrassed for our insensitivity or our clumsiness in failing to recognize the new reality. We could choose to let our hearts break again and again in these moments, or we could choose to see them as evidence of Slava's enduring, vivacious presence. I think there's room for both. Amy, Charlotte, Eloise, and Jonah, your husband and your dad is one of a kind. No one in your life will ever come close to him, and anyone who pretends to do so would be an imposter. But as you can see today, there are so many people who have learned from him and have been influenced by him, and who also love you so much. We are going to be there for you and listen for Slava's voice alongside you, and look for his ongoing displays of joy with you, and help ensure that we let him keep lifting us up. We are going to hold you when you want us to, and maybe sometimes when you don't. We know we are never going to measure up to him, but we will be there for you as he would have, with calmness, with wisdom, with hard work, with love, and yes, with some mischief and sly humor too. And when you all turn 21, we will help you have a few cocktails and obliterate a dessert table as only your dad could. We love you so much. And finally, to the original devourer of those desserts, Slava himself. When you were alive, you managed to be almost everywhere at once, Superman that you were. Now, you are truly everywhere, in each of us and with all of us. Through our cascading grief, we know you will continue to invite us to see beauty and joy if we listen for it and look for it. We will do so. Thank you for continuing to lift us up, Slava. We love you and the beautiful family that you created with the love of your life so much.
We invite Slava's brother, Max.
I'm surprised I'm allowed to do a speech today, as some of the people here tried to get me off stage last time I spoke at Slava and Amy's wedding. I've known Slava since he was born. Always easygoing and happy, he was born ready for this life. He always fit in, got on with everyone. Whilst most spend their lives in search, Slava found happiness and gratitude with what he had very early on, which perhaps is the biggest gift and blessing, and he managed to do this in the limited time that he had. The time he had in this life was of the best quality. And he spent it on what mattered the most to Slava. He has many good friends who are here today, who would do anything for him, including his brothers. He has his family, Amy, Charlotte, Eloise, and Jonah, who were his favorite people to spend time with, and it was always hard to get Slava away from them. He chose to prioritize what mattered most to him, being a family man. He was his parents, Art and Nellie's favorite child. He has his extended family, Amy's family, who would do anything for him, as they have done in his final days and beyond. When my wife got diagnosed with cancer earlier this year, Slava was the first person I told. I have no idea why. Perhaps he was a good listener without ever trying to pass on any advice or judgment. He was always consistent on checking up on her treatment. As he has been consistent with everything in his life. That's Slava. He was the first person to call me on my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and that was the last time that we spoke. We were planning on getting together later this summer. I guess next time we meet. In our family WhatsApp messages, they all say Slava was the best. And I must agree, Slava is the best.
We invite Slava's father, Art.
Slava is our youngest son. Nelly and I are blessed with 3 sons, and I will never use a past tense when pronouncing his name, imagining that he is just on a long journey. He came to the US as at the most rewarding age of 6 years old, and at this country he was able to start his immersion in English and Hebrew languages in Minneapolis Torah Academy. Growing up and moving through the middle school and Sunday Hebrew schools, he was the only one who had his bar mitzvah. Nelly reminded me recently that Rabbi in our large synagogue promised him a great future in religious life. But he continued participating, but preparing young kids to their bar mitzvahs for a couple years along the way. Moving forward through the best private school in Minnesota, where he was a great athlete, also playing his favorite basketball. He was also a co-captain of the varsity basketball team. After graduating with honors, he was accepted to University of Michigan. Being always a multitasking achiever, he was not just a good student, he was also an editor of the business school magazine, Monroe Street Journal, with Andrew, I don't want to talk about his great business career at Savaya Partners, as you all know. And at the U, he also met beautiful Amy and fell in love, and they married, creating a greatest family who is here sitting him on the long journey. Slava, you're always in our thoughts, prayer, and hearts.
And finally, we invite Amy.
Slava was my rock, the love of my life, my soulmate, the wind beneath my wings. He was my calm. He was my joy. He was my stability. He was my forever. We were the perfect team. We met 23 years ago, or that's what I think, but he's better at math, so maybe that's wrong. Robbie said 22, I don't know, a long time ago, my whole life, and we never looked back. I remember that moment early on when I realized we were going to be together forever. It wasn't something that either of us was ready to feel or either of us was looking for. We would joke around, we were in college, and we would say, I think we're meant for each other. I loved his calm and confident presence and his quick wit, and he loved that I had the ability to make him laugh. I remember him telling me that he never knew that girls could be funny. And believe me, I'm not that funny. It's just that we spoke the exact same language. Our relationship got more serious as the years went on, and our love only grew stronger, and our destined roles as partners only became clearer. Life got hectic. It was busy, especially once we had kids, but through all of it, we were so in love. And that never changed. We laughed in the chaos, we rolled our eyes at each other during the messy moments, and we made each other better. Even when we annoyed each other, which of course we did. Slava in particular, he loved to push my buttons, and I used to say to him, why do you have to try to annoy me when you do it so naturally anyway? These moments usually ended with him winking a big, beautiful brown eye at me, or coming behind me to give me a hug or pinch my tush. Slav was the best partner I could ever imagine in every way, and that's the hardest part. He wasn't just part of my life, he was my life, every ounce of him. His kindness, his humor, his steadiness, his strength. He wasn't just my rock, he was my boulder. The past few days, I've been wishing that there was something that didn't work between us, something I could hold on to now, something that could give me distance from this unbearable grief, but there isn't. He was perfect to me in every way. I'm so thankful that he knew that I felt this way about him. He was the most devoted father. Slava gave 100% at work, even when I tempted him to, stay home, like work from home today maybe. Somehow, he also still carried at least 50%, if not more, of the load at home. When Charlotte was born, I met a whole new side of him. He was so in love with her. I can still see him running home from work usually. Just as I was ready to put her to bed, he would walk in, and the two of them, they would lock eyes, and they would both have these huge smiles on their faces, and they would both light up like the day was just about to begin. When Eloise was born, it was like he grew a whole nother heart. He expanded again. He loved again, differently, fully, instantly. I watched him become more proud, more open, even more tender. Through both pregnancies, even though they were relatively straightforward, he was completely present. He held my hair through the morning sickness. He brought water to my bedside. He walked circles around the hospital with me, hands in hands, rubbing my back through contractions, telling me how strong I was, how proud he was of me, even when I felt like I had nothing left. And then came Jonah, in Russian, his boychik, he would call him. Even though Slava had made it clear that he would be happy to be a girl dad forever, and I was the one not so secretly obsessed with getting to have a little boy. When Jonah arrived, the connection was just immediate, just as powerful. Jonah was his pride and joy, a little mini me. His buddy, his wrestling partner. Jonah fell in love with each of our children the second he saw them. I mean, Slava did, not Jonah. Slava fell in love with each of our children the second he saw them, and it wasn't just love, it was devotion, commitment. He wasn't trying to be a great father. He just was one, instinctively, joyfully, wholeheartedly. He was their best friend, and I accepted this because he deserved the title. He played with them, he talked with them, he listened to them, he learned who they were. He did this in a way that was so deep in their bones, they will always know that their dad just adores them and is so, so, so proud of them. Slava's love, that goodness, that kindness, it lives on in Charlotte, in Eloise, and in Jonah. I see it in their curiosity, their humor, their warmth, their confidence, and in the way they care for each other and others around them. I will always see our time together during lockdown as the greatest gift of my life. Jonah was just born, the world slowed down, and we were all together. Yes, it was loud. Yes, the kids fought a lot. They needed constant entertainment, lots of snacks. But in between the chaos were these perfect, ordinary, sacred moments, and Slava would catch my eye with a smile and a shared look that said, "What the fuck?" and I love this life all at the same exact time. That was our heaven, right there in the mess. We were perfection together. And now, I don't know what to do without him. He would never have wanted it this way, for us to feel this unbearable pain. He would never want people to be put out for him. Somewhere deep down in the sadness, I can hear him telling me, like he did so many times before, that I can do this. I can be strong for our babies, for the life that we built, because that's what he would want. He gave us everything. And I will carry his love with me for the rest of my life. He was my husband, my partner, my best friend. He was Charlotte and Eloise and Jonah's hero. He was the best person I've ever known. He knew I felt that way. He knew it. He was our everything, and I'll love him forever. Some people have horrific accidents and die tragically, or even get sick and begin their path towards death at a time when they're still working to solidify who they are. There are no silver linings of this horrific situation, but when I've dug deep, I realized that Slava went out on top of the world. He had achieved success in so many areas of his life, and he loved us so deeply and knew we all idolized him. During the most mundane moments, he would often lean back in his chair, turn to Eloise, and say, "This is the life. Lou, right? This is the life."
What beautiful words from all of you. Just a few brief announcements before we move toward the conclusion of our service here. The family will sit Shiva today from 4 to 8 p.m. at 2 Rogers Way in Westport. There'll be a minyan at about 6 p.m. And those who come to sit with them are invited to park either on their street or at the porch. Those of you in Westport know the location, but not to block traffic on Bayberry or Cross Highway, please. The family will then sit Shiva privately the remaining 6 traditional days. And as you know, the family has asked that we all maintain an atmosphere of grieving as is appropriate during the period of Shiva. And finally, a fund in Slava's name has been established at the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. The details can be found on his online obituary page and will be provided by the family. There'll be a code to ensure that your contributions are directed to this specific fund. At another recent funeral of a person who, like Slava, died far too young, I asked, what do we Jews believe about death? In all the tomes of Jewish wisdom written over the millennia, almost nothing is written about what happens after we die. And thus, the conclusion is this: we believe that you get but one shot, just one shot to do the best you can in this life, because nobody knows what will happen next. But God knows, and we know, Slava, that you did your very best with these 43 years that you were given. Jonah said it all last night in words that Amy just shared. He said, "He was my everything." What more could be said for a life well lived? And now Slava's body is in this box, but his soul most certainly is not. As Aaron said, his soul is very much alive, and it cannot be contained in any box. His soul is, as we say in our tradition, on its way to dwell with God. And also his soul dwells among us. Every time you remember your father, every time you look at a photo of him, every time you think of something he told you or taught you, every time you want to give him a hug, his soul is right there with you. Please rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Uteharim, Kezohar Harakim Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Yakireinu, Shehalach Leolamo, Mahal Harachamim Yastirehu, Beseter Kenafav,
לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, we ask that you grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Slava Leykind, who has now entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God, you are indeed his inheritance, and may he rest in peace. Let us all say, Amen. At this time, I call forward the pallbearers to form two lines in the central aisle: Josh Nova, Scott Lutz, Robert and Michael Ontel, Jeremy Altman, Mike Hokinson, and Michael Hendry.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself,